Well, the Democrats have had two horrific weeks, and it really just comes down to what Donna said. They've got no leader. They've got no movement. The only thing they've got is Trump derangement syndrome. It's the only thing that brings them together. And the only thing they got out of this week was, well, who's going to primary Chuck Schumer? What are we all about? AOC and Bernie Sanders are the only people in their entire party that can get a crowd of over 20 to show up. So the only thing they are, I mean, they're afraid of Trump. Trump owns them. And it was a total slam dunk for the Republican Party.
Poll numbers show that Democrats are in a ship with no captain or lifeboats. Senator Chuck Schumer fires back on the criticism that he's received from his own party, and President Donald Trump has the country feeling pretty good recently as he got the best polling numbers of his entire political career. Now, I've got all of that and a whole lot more, but let's get things started with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
We have the Republicans on the run on three different issues. We have them on the run with respect to the economy. Donald Trump and House Republicans promised that they were going to lower the high cost of living. But instead, costs haven't gone down. They've gone up. Inflation is going up. Why? Because Donald Trump and Republicans haven't been focused on doing anything to lower the high cost of living. Not a single bill, not a single executive action, not a single administrative order. We, as House Democrats, have to make sure we forcefully make the case to everyday Americans that we are trying to build an affordable economy. We know that costs are too high, and we know that people are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck, and that should never happen in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. We got to hold the line as it relates to the economic narrative, and we see that Trump's poll numbers are collapsing in that regard.
We're going to get to the polls later, but let's talk about the narrative from the Democratic Party. In some way, they're trying to imitate what the Republican Party did when Joe Biden was in office, talking about the cost of goods and how everyday Americans are struggling. But the situation has changed. Under former President Joe Biden, things went out of control if we're talking about the economy. And while they pushed out executive orders and legislation, none of them truly helped out with our expenses. He was there for 4 long years, and Democrats didn't say a thing about the high cost of living. President Trump has been in the White House for a few months, and suddenly they have all these comments about the economy. Although many predict that they're going to run out of things to say. Kind of like how they don't even talk about the border anymore because it's actually been secured.
A small but welcome dip in inflation as the markets keep a close eye on the Federal Reserve's next move. The big concern here, the looming refinancing of trillions of dollars in national debt. President Trump, however, says he's not worried about the chances of a recession.
Just specifically on the recession.
Yeah.
Do you think there will be a recession?
I don't see it at all. I think this country is going to boom.
And while markets digest tariffs, prices are already coming down for American families. Egg prices have plunged nearly $2. They are lower than when Trump took office. It's a small win, but it does show progress is being made on the affordability crisis. Let's first go straight to Edward Lawrence. He is live for us at the White House. Hi, Edward.
Yeah, and the CPI inflation report came out, showed that cooling, that slight cooling, under 3%, now 2.8%. The core inflation, without food and energy prices, 3.1%, the lowest in about 4 years that we've seen. Now, the Federal Reserve will look at this and they'll say, well, this is a good report, but let's pause and wait. That's the indication. They're going to pause and see how this kind of all plays out here. It's good that there were no increases in this inflation report. Now, the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says this about the report. Quote, President Trump is driving down costs through massive deregulation and energy dominance. The entire Trump administration will continue to focus on fixing the economy and inflation nightmare created by the Biden-Harris administration to unlock the golden age of America.
Hey, by the way, guys, if you're one of the real ones who really enjoy what we do here on the channel, you've got to check out the Inner Circle. This is where our true supporters get exclusive access to content that I just can't share here, completely commercial free. It's also the best way to keep this channel going strong. So if you want to be a part of something special, join us over there. Links in the description or in the pinned comment down below. For the first time in a long time, we're going in the right direction. And this is what's confusing for Democrats, especially their writers, because they're running out of things to say. So here's their latest catchphrase that just doesn't seem to be catching on. Watch.
The strength that we have is in this moment.
Listen to your constituents. Center them in this moment.
But I can tell you that there are a lot of people that are watching his leadership in this moment. This is the moment.
I think about what's happening, in this moment.
What's important is that we meet this moment.
So are these current Democrats the ones to meet the moment?
What do you want to see us doing right now in this moment?
And which Democrats are actually going to stand up against Elon Musk and Donald Trump in this moment?
The fight that you all are exhibiting is not just what the base wants, but it's what this moment requires.
This inauthentic attempt at convincing their party is not working, which has now led to the polls showing exactly what you would expect. By the way, if you guys appreciate the daily news updates, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Hakeem Jeffries is saying that the poll numbers of President Trump is going down, but that couldn't be any further from the truth, as they're again projecting their failures onto everyone else but themselves.
Brand new exclusive CNN poll that paints a brutal reality for Democrats as they struggle to mount a unified opposition to President Trump. Americans' favorable views of the Democratic Party's brand are at a record low, just 29%. That's compared to 36% for Republicans. It is the lowest ever recorded for Democrats in CNN polling going back more than 30 years. As you can see, the party's numbers dropping a staggering 20 points in just 4 years.
And who was in the White House for the last 4 years? Democrats. So you can piece together the puzzle that most Democrats blame their own party for the mess that they've put us in. Now, with their poll numbers at historic lows, the Democratic Party thought it would be a good idea to have Representative Jasmine Crockett show up on CNN. For Republicans, Crockett is the gift that just keeps on giving. So here's what she had to say regarding the efforts of the White House to deport illegal immigrants who belong to dangerous gangs.
To deport undocumented Venezuelans that the administration say are dangerous individuals with ties to the gang Tren de Aragua. That gang is obviously associated with a lot of crime, human trafficking, drug dealing, theft, shootings, including in your state of Texas, right outside of your congressional district. Do you agree with this? And if not, what's your issue with the U.S. using any tool at its disposal to remove undocumented, violent people from this country?
Well, my argument is that we already have tools that are available to remove undocumented violent people from our country. And so the idea that you want to go into a zombie law, this is kind of like what we saw in Arizona when they decided to revive a zombie law around abortion. It is the fact that we can't trust this administration to actually use a scalpel, but instead they love to use a butcher knife on things. And so giving them this wide latitude to just kind of go across and just claim that anybody is anything is wrong. And so we do have courts, we do have processes, we do have laws, and we should just go ahead and use those. There's a reason that nobody else has decided to go back until into Adam's times in order to try to find ways to make sure that we can keep our country safe.
Democrats are taking a bad position when it comes to our borders. This is an 80-20 issue, and they keep siding with a majority of Americans who don't want this. Voters want borders to be safe. They want to be able to go out and walk outside without fear. And that's why a lot of Americans are loving what the president's doing right now. This in turn has given us some of the best numbers yet, which doesn't look good for the Democrats as they're set to lose big in this midterm election coming up.
First of all, the mood of the country, this really jumped out. We ask folks, is it on the right direction or the wrong direction? That 44%, you say right direction, that's up since November. And if that doesn't seem like a lot, the last time it cracked 40%, you got to go back to 2012. The last time it actually hit 44 or higher, January of 2004. So a lot of this is Republicans, but independents, that number is also up since the election on the direction of the country.
Now, going back to Hakeem Jeffries having the Republican Party on the run, I think he's talking about a victory lap because they're seeing great numbers all around. Now, instead of downplaying these victories, Democrats should probably look at what they can do next. The pressure has gotten to most of them, and they've resorted to infighting. Senator Chuck Schumer finally did an interview to confirm what's happening behind closed doors.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is finally talking about the backlash he's getting from his fellow Democrats.
In my caucus, for instance, I knew there would be divisions.
Have you spoken to Jeffries since the vote?
I speak to Jeffries regularly.
Have you spoken since the vote?
No, we haven't spoken since the vote.
You were crucial in getting President Joe Biden to step down. Do you think it's time for you to do the same?
Let me say this. There is spirited disagreements on which was the right vote. But as I said, I think we have mutual respect in our caucus, and we are all united.
His relationship with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries definitely appears to be on the rocks.
I do expect to have a conversation with him at some point later on today. Look, Chuck and I disagreed as it relates to the approach and outcome relative to what we viewed as a reckless Republican spending bill and the effort to try to jam these cuts down the throats of the American people.
It's like we're watching reality TV and Chuck Schumer is about to get voted off the island, right? Do any of you guys think it's time for Democrats to have new leadership? Now, I want to pivot here and redirect you to some bombshell news regarding possible stimulus refunds that could go out to a lot of Americans. I covered it in a previous live stream that I urge you guys to check out. As always, thanks for hitting the like button and subscribing. We'll see you next time.